Welcome to the Metal Maven Podcast, where we explore and discover the process and passions of artists in the metal music and art community. In episode 15 of Metal Maven Podcast, I'm joined by the mesmerizing and soulful Cammie Gilbert, lead vocalist of American progressive metal band Oceans of Slumber. Welcome, Cammie. It's so wonderful to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been a rainy couple of days, and we just finished up a photo shoot, but otherwise laying low and hanging out.
Yeah, no fancy photo shoots for me, but yeah, keeping a low profile has been the life lately. This is my return to the mic after being away for a month, so being real, April and even May are very weird, and it still is.
Yes.
As a musician, this must have been strange to not perform and begin the yearly tour cycle. Besides the obvious quarantine 15, which I'm here with you, I'm fine with it. How has this hiatus affected you artistically, and what do you imagine it will feel like to step onto the stage again?
It definitely was a big blow psychologically after settling into, all the news of quarantine and the social distancing and self-isolation. Kind of once that settled in, and then you realize where you are on the calendar, it was a pretty big blow for me emotionally. We wait all year to have the summer and the season start up, and we had a lot of tours and festivals lined up, more so than I think we've even had in previous years, and so to finally feel like we had a good team and to have everything working, and then for this to happen. Obviously, I thought about it a lot, that there's a lot of people that probably had big plans and things they were looking forward to. So there's the solidarity and all of that. But I'm so eager to perform. Like the human and the like present connection is such a big deal to me. I talked to Dauber about it pretty extensively. For him, any amount of downtime becomes a new album. So he's been thriving and creating quite a bit for his other bands, Necrofire and Malignant Altar. He started a quarantine project where he's doing collaborations with different friends locally. So he's been thriving.
Isolation breeds creativity, it seems.
For him, yes. For me, I feel like it's like a little bit of the opposite, where I kind of burrowed in and went into like kind of a hibernation mode, where I feel like there's things like I have to work on myself about and psychologically about, and kind of get to the root of why I feel like I'm creating, or what it does for me. I feel like Dauber's kind of like a muse to me. The more that I see him do and the more that I see him get excited about stuff, then it's a catalyst for me doing it myself. But I feel like it's not always there just organically for me as readily as it is for him. I feel like a big part of my artistic expression is the performance side of it, and I really need the feedback and like the real life validation, I guess, to want to continue to kind of perpetuate that cycle. I think it's just a truth about when you become an artist, I guess, or like a performance artist, like when you are used to doing like live shows.
Yeah, well, that's the conclusion of the creation process. It's delivering it and then receiving that feedback. So it's this weird phase you're in where it's not happening.
Right. It's like I made it and it's out there, and things on the internet just don't feel as real. Like even if people say nice things or they give you feedback, and it's not just necessarily like praise, but just it's like, did you really hear it? Did you really get it? Or it's just, are you just saying that because it's just all digital and it's all online? That I want to see and have that conversation with them, so to speak, just in real life, like face to face. It's just different.
Yeah, totally different energy when you're singing to someone and then you're seeing their faces, you're seeing their reaction. It's just the internet can't really give you that.
No.
In March, it was announced that the new Oceans of Slumber album was finished. You mentioned that it's the best music you've made so far. Can you provide any further insight into this upcoming release? I don't know if you can say the album title or the release date or maybe even the concept.
I can say a few things. It's a self-titled album. It's our first, or I don't know first, but it's our official self-titled album. So it's called Oceans of Slumber. We are really excited about this new album for a lot of reasons. It's a step in, not necessarily a different direction, but more so a vein of, I feel like when Oceans came out, we had so many different facets of where we were that we could really choose a different road to go down with each song. And so with The Banished Heart, that was a much heavier, doomier album, which chronicled from things like This Road and Winter from the Winter album. And so I would say that with the new album coming out, we're picking up the pace, we're picking up the emotion, we're picking up the call to action, the feverishness of where we feel like society is at internally, with where these things are that we want change, and kind of speaking up about issues that are around us and taking our message and making it like more broad. Versus The Banished Heart was a lot of introspective. It was a really hard time that we were going through for Dauber and I, and we chronicled that. And I feel like as musicians, that's what we're allowed to do. So this album is kind of like a for everybody else album, whereas I feel like Banished Heart was a little bit more personal and for us. And so that being said, I think that there's a lot more elements that people will kind of take to engage with, that they kind of cling to you, and they are catchy, and they kind of wrap you up in them, and are a little bit more unforgettable, so to speak.
Listening to Oceans of Slumber, there's like a very unique energy to your music, and so you bring me to the darkest depths and then carry me into the light. I don't know, I like being caught up in it. There's a certain way that you carry me through your music, so I'm really looking forward to how this new album is going to turn out. But going back to your past a little bit, growing up in Houston, Texas, how did you find your unique voice and your path to the metal realm?
I feel like Houston's a very unique place musically. You're in Texas, you have everything. I mean, there's a thriving death metal scene, and there's a thriving metal scene, and Texas death metal and Texas metal, it has its own reputation. And so there's like that. And then there's little baby Cammie that grew up with my mother, who was from Southside Chicago, and my dad was from Ohio. So they were like northern people, right? So they moved down to Houston, and they loved R&B and soul and gospel. And so I grew up with this attachment to my voice and what my voice was meant to do. And in coming from the church, you learn that your voice is for like praise, and your voice is for, your connection to God and on all of that. And while none of that part stuck, so well, the takeaway was that, my voice had importance, and my voice was supposed to be a message for real emotions, and always a vessel for those emotions to get out and to connect to other people. And so as I moved through the different things that my parents showed me, Luther Vandross, Aretha Franklin, like all these people, I started to kind of pick up what was going around. So there was a lot of alternative grunge, and like rock was on the come up, because I'm like an late 80s baby. So it's like 90s grunge movement like captured my soul. It was Audio Slave, Stone Temple Pilots. It was all that. And slowly, I want it more. I want it heavier. I want it harsher. And so when I started dabbling and getting into my own bands, I feel like the people you run into the quickest are metalheads. They're the ones in everybody's garage. They're the ones at every bar and dive place that there was. And so somehow I found myself in a rock band that shared a room with a metal band. And next door was Oceans of Slumber. And so one thing led to another, and Dauber finally saw my band at the time play, and he's like, I gotta have that voice for this crazy vision that I have of bringing that into metal. And so it worked. It was a match made in heaven.
He seems to have a crystal clear vision of how things should turn out, and then they usually do turn out in his favor.
Yeah, he's so driven and he's so focused and he is so knowledgeable about whatever it is that he's doing that I feel like when you combine those things, then they have a way of working out, the way that you want them to, for the most part. I'm very fortunate to have him and very grateful for him overseeing how I can contain like my creativity. Like I'm a very emotional person and I have a lot of ups and downs, and he definitely takes that and makes it into what we have. He makes it into these songs. He makes it into this band that if left to my own devices, like none of this would be nearly as organized or as comprehensible to other people. And so I'm very thankful.
I was thinking too, I was like, oh man, what if Cammie just said like, nah, I'll pass. Like sometimes I ask people that question, like if you weren't a musician, what would you be doing?
Well, I decided that if I wasn't a musician, I'd be a wildlife and game warden. Because like next to the CIA and FBI, if I'm even saying this right, because I don't really know like my departments of authority, but basically like they don't need a warrant. They can just walk in your house, they can search your car, they can just shoot you in the woods. Like shit's crazy. They can do whatever they want because they have to be able to like catch you right there. So it's like, oh, you shot that deer and you're hiding the body. They have to be able to like look right there. And so they're insane.
So basically any form of badassery would have been your next line of profession.
I'd be out there catching hawks and wearing my Mountie hat.
I believe you could do it and do it well, Cammie.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's move forward to the most recent music that the band has put out, and it is a cover of Billie Holiday's Strange Fruit. On Instagram, you had wanted to release this song in February for Black History Month, and the original is, very profound and enduring. So what was your state of mind when re-envisioning this song for 2020?
So we've been in love with this song for a long time, and it's been on our minds to do a cover, and we had put it off and put it off. And so with the release getting pushed back for this newest album, we had this downtime, and we're like, let's just do, a one-off single. And so it's obviously a super heavy topic, and here in Texas and in the South, it's very prevalent sometimes, the contrast amongst, different people. And so we thought, this year is just the year to do it. And the timing worked out originally for us to get it out during Black History Month, but due to different like copyright things and you have to get permission to do stuff, it got pushed back. And so unfortunately, with the state of affairs in society, the relevance still managed to fall on a very timely era of news coverage. I think that for songs like this, it's important that if it's just important to remember history. It's important to intertwine history with your understanding of why people act a certain way on both sides and why there's tensions. It's like you're never going to figure out how to fix a problem if you don't get to the pearl of it. Like if you don't figure out when it started and where the roots go, then you're never going to unravel it. And so we took some intense photos and we made an intense video, and we decided to kind of throw caution to the wind a little bit. I think sometimes it's hard for bands and artists to speak up about issues like this that are important to them. Somehow the internet's a place where everybody can say everything and nobody can say anything. And, we're a mixed culture band, and I felt confident that we had the credentials to do the song. Intertwining it with metal, we wanted to bring out the doom elements of a song like that. There's a lot of really good essence of doom in a lot of kind of Negro spiritual or Southern gospel type songs. We have more on deck that we want to do, and so we wanted to really bring out those dark undertones in Strange Fruit and kind of not even modernize it, but just give it even more angst and give it even more emotion.
Well, I think it was pretty well received, and ultimately it's a call for unity. You said it perfectly in your Instagram caption. You said, history provides us lessons for the present and hopefully guidance for the future. It teaches us to combine our voices in the name of love to strive against divisiveness, becoming our nature. to uphold and help one another so that never again does strange fruit hang from the poplar tree. This concept of love, it's while it's part of everyone and everything, seems to be a uniting thread in the tapestry of your life, both personally and musically. What have been your most profound moments where love became a catalyst for you artistically?
I would say most prominent, it was kind of interwoven. So my dad was a musician growing up, and he was a very troubled man off and on with his like mental health and his like actual health. And towards the end of my high school years, he got leukemia that he would kind of struggle with for about 5 years before he died back in like 2009. And throughout it all, he always had his studio. We always shared our love of music or had some sort of music on, or he's working on, perpetually working on songs. And I feel like that love and that emotion have always been intertwined with who I was as an artist. That sometimes, to my own detriment, it's like I struggle with feeling artistic if I'm not feeling emotionally unstable, which is a terrible relationship to have. But it's also why I realize so many, I think, musicians end up with substance abuse issues and whatnot. That it can come from a real vein, especially when you're making the kind of music that we are. It's serious music, serious issues. It's heavy music for heavy times in people's lives. And so in trying to heal myself and in trying to heal my relationship with my inner artist, let's say, it's learning to love myself, and it's learning that I can create music from a place of love. And sometimes I have to be more outward with that, even if it doesn't feel as internalized all the time.
I love that. I've always said, musicians are healers. All that internal emotion they're feeling, they're creating art from it, and then they're releasing this frequency out into other people and helping heal them. Transmuting all of that into music, it really does help people, even though you may not realize it. So, musician is still badass. Still badass warriors. Just right now, there's just no stage to get on, which is the problem. So, in more recent news with you, you're going to be featured on Arian's new album, Transitus, as the character Abby. So this is awesome. I've already interviewed a lot of people who have worked with Arian before, so how did this collaboration happen, and what was it like to work with him?
So I have to give all credit to Dauber again, making sense of all of the madness that is me. We were in the UK. I don't remember exactly where we were. For some shows, and there was an interviewer there who was good friends with Arian. And him and Dauber were talking all serious talk for a good portion of the night. And towards the end, he asked Dauber if there was anything he wanted to let Arian know. And Dauber was like, play him the Banished Heart. And if he could ever find a spot for any of us on the next album, then that would be awesome. So then you like fast forward, and first Dauber gets a message asking if it would be all right to reach out to me. And then Arian reached out to me, and I was absolutely blown away, because when I first got into metal and we started really exploring the progressive side with my listening, all of the Arian albums came up, and it was so cool to see all these artists that I had come to learn about, their own projects come together for this collaboration. And it's wonderfully written to be a storyline. Like, I love anime and things with sagas, and so it was just right up my alley. So I was super freaking excited. We went out to see him, and he was super easy to work with, because he's actually the first person that I worked with that wasn't Dauber. Like, I'm an anxious ball. Like, if I were an animal, I'd be a rabbit that had a heart attack if somebody clapped too loud. Like,
I totally understand you.
I'm very, very sensitive. And so I was really nervous to just have, a different producer there, or just someone else, because like Dauber's just always at the helm of what we do. And so I was just super nervous, like, how does this work? How's this going to go? And he's really tall. He's the tallest person I think I've ever stood next to.
He looks like this super tall, like, musical wizard. I love it.
Yes, and he is. But he was super kind. He knows what he wants. he's not going to ask you to do something you can't do. And he's already kind of written the parts, let's say, with you in mind. And so it was super easy to work with him. He's incredibly nice and put me at ease. The direction that he gives for, it's like, do it like this, or I want some more. Like, it was incredibly easy. And so I was very happy. I was super stoked. It was really hard to keep it a secret for this long.
I know. I finally saw your it was like a little video of you on YouTube on his channel. So I was like, oh my God, I have to talk to her about this. So can you reveal anything more about your character at all? Or is that's just part of the storyline? I can't talk about it yet.
Well, I'm Abby. That much I can say. I can say whatever he said already.
All right. So my last question for you looks to the future. Since Texas and surrounding areas are beginning to open up, what is the game plan to promote this new album cycle and allow fans a chance to hear and interact with the band? Were you thinking maybe like a live stream album release show? Like, what are you guys thinking about right now?
We're absolutely not opposed to any of that. I wonder and I worry, it's like, I don't want people to get bored of not bored with like the live streams and the people sitting around. It's like, I don't know. Obviously, like I fear about like oversaturation. I don't want to just give people something if that they don't really think that would be like exciting. That being said, like we most certainly want to interact and get that first impression and hear what people think. I'm really excited to try and get a little bit more creative with it and how the dynamic of the live stuff works and just how many different ways we can kind of give it that cool exclusivity, but at the same time make it broad enough that everybody feels like they can kind of have some time with us. So yeah, I would say absolutely. Like there's definitely live streams. I don't know about the album, like an album release show. We had to figure out something. We have a good connection with some venues here that I'm always like, I want to go really big and do it all fancy and not in our tiny house living room. But what I want, what can be done are two different things. Apparently, live streaming video production is a lot further behind than I would have thought. It's not HD, as we've seen. Pretty much what everyone sees is what you get. And so we definitely want to do something where it's live so people can talk to us and interact. But I obviously want the quality to be there too.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you know the band. It's Illumishade.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they just did their album release live stream, so that's what I was like instantly in my head, like, oh, that could be a good option.
No, it's all super. I mean, it's super cool, and I get excited. They'll be friends, but it's like Tom England. He goes live, and it's all watch him. What is he doing? It's like you could talk to him if we wanted to, but we're like, nobody's live. Say something in his comments. So
Yeah, I think this time in the music industry is just a very strange one, and everyone has to get extremely creative and kind of dealing with this kind of scarcity. It's not to say that people don't want to hear music. It's just like the physical aspect of it is scarce. There's nothing we can do about it right now.
yeah, it's so two-sided. I think it makes people realize the importance and the impact that live music has on them. And then at the same time, how much you're listening to music in your daily life. So let's say your streaming habits change because you're not commuting because things are closed for a bit, right? Or you would jam an album or like the discography of a band all week because you were going to go see them at the end of the week or something. That those habits have kind of changed, and the coming together that a live show is, people would joke about it all the time. You have people that go to concerts just to talk in the back the whole time. But it's like there's so many elements to it and so much coming together that it makes me really sad, and it's I can say like scary. It's not like scary if it doesn't come back, but to know that it really could be changed for a very long time, the dynamic in which live shows, especially for something like metal, it's like the bigger the crowd, the better it works. It's not, soft acoustic coffee house music. You can't have 25, 50 people at a show and that be okay.
Yeah, there's no social distancing. There's mosh pits. People are sweaty. Yeah, it's not going to work that way.
Right. And so we have to get creative. We have to figure out what that means, and if it's enough for certain artists. It's like I don't feel like I'm alone. I think that I've learned more about the types of artist personalities during this than before. That, for some people it's like, if you can't do it live, do you want to do it anymore? Or if you could never perform live, what does that mean? Everybody doesn't have home rigs or home studios or all of that either. So there's just so many variables to it.
And to get that quality, you'd need you'd need an actual production happening to make that live stream feel HD, feel, that quality you want.
Right, with lights and everything else. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a lot. But yeah, you definitely have the time. I have a garden now. We're thinking of getting a pig. It's like dreams are coming true.
I know. See, you didn't even realize you wanted it.
Exactly.
No, same thing. We're starting a garden too and everything, but it's kind of this strange, I don't know. It's like
a
weird,
limbo.
Yeah, it's like a limbo, but still kind of a return to almost like a natural way of life, if that's even something I should say. I don't even know.
I fully agree. It's somehow, it's like you're more plugged in but less at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like things have all become online, they're digital, or you're working remote, but then you have this time and you need to stay home, and so it's like cultivating your personal space in a way that people haven't maybe paid attention to in a long time. And so I think that I love that. I think that that's been great. And it's, the projects are fixing certain things. I've changed like every faucet in the house, and it's like, who knew it didn't work, but it wasn't working. And then it's like with the band stuff and the music stuff, it's like there's no fear that we're stopping. It just changes what that means. It's like making songs to perform live, making songs for arenas, making songs. It's like you make songs for the space that you're going to be in. And so if you're not going to be in any space, then I think that changes the cascade of what kind of music gets created. It's just, those are like little things, and little, like a drop of water going down the rock. Eventually it changes, the shape of the rock. And I think that that's what we're looking at, something that's changing the face of the music industry and changing the face of how music is created and shared, that I think, there's definitely going to be long lasting effects of that one way or another. It's not necessarily a negative thing, but it's going to change things, or it has already changed things.
Well, regardless of what's to come, I mean, this album's going to be here soon. This new baby is going to be released into the world.
It is. Baby's coming. We can't stop
it. Well, congratulations on this, as well as being featured in Arian's new album. And that's all the questions I have for you today, Cammie. Thank you so much for being here with me tonight and chatting with me.
Thank you. This was awesome.
To learn more about Oceans of Slumber and stay up to date about their upcoming studio album, visit oceansofslumber.com. Visit metalmavenpodcast.com for links to Cammie's social profiles, videos, and read the full transcript of this interview. Thanks for tuning in. And be sure to subscribe to Metal Maven Podcast on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, and Google.